The federal government can compel any service provider within its existing or required technical capability to collect or record, to cooperate with law enforcement or counterintelligence agencies in the collection or recording of traffic data or in real time. The issue with that is that that particular service provider is supposed to retain that traffic data, anything going through his system, for a minimum of 90 days. That's huge. The amount of data that is collected by, for instance, Sabine sitting over here, an ISP, a mobile link or PTCR is massive. So I know this doesn't necessarily affect a person who's basically a user, but it does affect big business. They can't basically do this.
Or small business.
Or even small businesses, like a cyber cafe, for instance. The federal government may extend the period to retain such data as and when it deems appropriate.
This date is your mistake or
ये वहाँ से थोड़ा सा होगा. ठीक है. I just copy paste. I don't do anything. I just copy paste. That's it. Service providers should retain the traffic data by fulfilling all the requirements of data retention and its originality. Now, what happens with that is that you got to keep the data in such a form that creating copies becomes difficult also. There's a whole big process. This requirement itself, especially the extension of time, is extremely difficult for those kind of businesses to do. In Europe, for instance, this is something that was, as far as a business was concerned, they came and said, we just can't do it, stop it. However, what they said was, if you want us to preserve certain data, we're willing to do that. Which means, don't ask to retain everything. You tell us you want this particular data that's going to come through, you want us to preserve that, we'll do that for you. And one account. But asking us to take all our traffic data and keep it there for minimum 90 days plus any extension makes absolutely no sense. Okay. Now, I want to show you what a service provider is. You had a question? Yeah. Should I show you service provider? Okay. A service provider includes but not limited to.
That's the favorite phrase, includes but not limited to.
Sabko pakado. A person acting as a service provider in relation to sending, receiving, storing or processing of electronic communication or the provision of other services in relation to electronic communication through any electronic system. Right here, wireless router.
But the data is not being stored, this is my question. There's a wireless router, it's connected to a modem.
You should have.
So, but I don't need one. I don't need a server to provide you
but
with
the law
internet.
requires you to have one.
But the law requires you to have one.
No, it doesn't say that.
What it says, it said that any person is a service provider, and you have to make sure all the traffic going through your router is.
But I'm not a service provider.
Hmm?
But by what definition is this a service ISP?
A person acting, not an ISP, and we know what ISPs are. It's like multi-net, cyber, and others. But the definition of a service provider includes, but is not limited to. It could be her. It could be anything. Exactly, absolutely. Your point is absolutely valid. A person acting as a service provider in relation to sending, receiving, storing, or processing of electronic communication or the provision of other services in relation to electronic communication through any services, right? Now, okay, here at least when you log on to your system, we don't actually have to have a password or username, right? Imagine a cyber cafe. Imagine when you're at a hotspot. Imagine if you're at a hotel. They're not going to be able to comply with that 90-day requirement of traffic. Doesn't make any sense. Now, I think that the requirement of having something like that is there, but they should have made it a little more sensible.